Production studio Echo TV presents The City of Sight Recovery. Vladimir Filatov couldn't believe. The cornea, transplanted from a deceased person, has taken root and didn't become cloudy. He resolved the problem over which, through the centuries, thought ophthalmology all around the world. He made a revolution in medicine. Institute of Ophthalmology and Tissue Therapy, named after Vladimir Filatov. How many such operations are carried out since then? Thousands, tens of thousands. Till the time when conveyor of sight recovery was stopped, surgeons were left without resources, and then Filatov's team made a new revolution in ophthalmology. Our eyes is an amazing organ. Through them, we receive more than 90% of the information from the outside world. 2/3 of all neurons of the brain run for the sight operation needs only. If we will record on camera all what we see in one day, it will take more than 19 kilometers of film, the color film. Only human eye distinguishes 10 million colors. For a split second focuses on the distant and close objects, and we are the only creatures who possess a protein through which one can catch a sight direction, emotions, feelings. But the statistics is severe. Every second in the world, one person goes blind. Everyone should see the sun. This legendary phrase Vladimir Filatov said for the first time in his youth, with indignation when he saw a blind girl. These were not empty words. He will bind his life with sunny Odessa, and Odessa will be bound with ophthalmology. The eye has its own window into the world. This is the cornea, a round convex lens. It is inserted into the sclera protein mass like a watch glass is inserted into a white frame. We are able to see until this piece of glass is transparent, but what happens with its opacification? The eye is completely healthy. Only a thin hazy film separates the light from total darkness. Cataract. Opacification of the cornea is the most common cause of blindness. There are a very large number of different diseases when the structure of cornea is changed and as a result opacification or cataracts are formed. The causes of such changes may be inflammation, traumas, burns and birth defects. In fact, it is a scar not amenable to treatment. The only one solution is to replace a hazy coating by transparent one. But is it possible? When Filatov has started first experiments, corneal transplantation in the medical community was equal to the invention of perpetual motion engine. From animals, from chickens, birds, even from fishes they tried to transplant. These corneas were rejected, so that is why the idea was abandoned. But the scientists believed in other idea: the dead will help to the living. He transplanted cornea from the corpse, aged in special conditions. The sight of the patient was recovered, and after that patient another one recovered, then another one. Odessa was captivated with blindfolded people. Filatov has obtained a special order from the Council of Ministers of USSR, which allowed to take donor cornea from deceased people. In this case, it didn't require any special permission. This is the source of donor material, which incidentally is the only one up to date. Just within a few years in South Palmyra there were more corneal transplantation surgeries than in the previous centuries in the whole world. But in his discoveries, the Odessa surgeon has stepped far beyond ophthalmology. I was naturally incited with the question: if corneal transplantation provides such a success, it may be that other tissues preserved in the cold will provide the same results. Maybe they can be successfully implemented for other diseases treatments.
При других заболеваниях тоже давать успех.
And already the first experiments have surpassed all expectations. We put in a cold place animal tissue, such as a piece of skin. There are about 5 degrees. Before dying, the cells will make last attempt to adapt to survive. A few days later, this piece will be a repository of biological stimulants. We transplant it to the patient and the person recovers. This is fantastic discovery made by Filatov resulted in a new area of medicine, the tissue therapy. The leadership was given to the placenta and simple aloe. Medicines based on their extract were in demand far beyond the Soviet Union. In 1936, Filatov was known all around the world. Like a magnet, he attracted to Odessa blind people and young scientists. The clinic is no longer can accommodate all the newcomers, but the famous ophthalmologist convinced the Kremlin the cornea transplantation is an important and promising direction. But the essential base for research is required, and in the same year Moscow pulls down an order to establish in Odessa the Institute of Experimental Ophthalmology. The new clinic was built on the French Boulevard. During that time it was called Proletarium, directly at the seaside. Operated patients, still in bandages, were taken out here. They unbared their eyes, and the first thing they saw was the sun and the sea. The popular resort has now become a mecca of ophthalmology. For the pursuit of new vision to Odessa went people from all parts of large country. Vladimir Filatov is a brilliant man, a scientist, a practitioner, and like any man of genius, he left behind him his name, school, and those ideas which are used till today. Vladimir Filatov was the head of the institute till the last day of his life. Year 1943, the Fourth Ukrainian Front. The Red Army was struggling to break through to the west, and together with it was mobile hospital. Ophthalmology department was not able to receive and handle the number of wounded, the pilots, tank crews, sappers with complicated eye burns. Nadezhda Puchkovskaya, Filatov's young successor, has started her way precisely from here. A burn is a severe eye injury. It leads to the formation of cataract, it leads to the formation of various scar processes, merging of the eyelids with the eyeball, merging of eyelids between each other, and in the most severe cases the eyeball is fully emerged. After the war, Nadezhda Puchkovskaya headed the burn department, which was founded by Filatov. She believed that in the most severe cases vision can be returned, even where the eyes and eyelids have become one. I had to work with her from the 1968 till her death. It was Puchkovskaya who developed these surgeries from elimination of merging between eyelids and eyeballs. It was a real breakthrough. If the eye disappeared, then you can fight for sight recovery, but nobody can defeat a cataract on the burned cornea. Transplantation of the donor's cornea to the time became a commonly practiced, but burned tissues were simply rejected. Scientists around the world struggled with the decision and have found it to implant at the center of the opacificated cornea a plastic prosthesis. A sort of window has formed through which the patient can see, in this regard to see up to 100%. But to achieve a long-term effect didn't work. Their problem was the following: they were not kept in place, they were rejected. A month to 3 recatoprosthesis drops and eye dies. If we will increase keratoprothesis, we will see something like this transparent cylinder. It is held in the eye by a metal retainer. Previously they were disc-shaped. Because of this form, the prosthesis was rejected by cornea, but Filatov's team has found a solution. It is necessary to reduce its surface. Developed by Professor Yakimenko, this model was taken by cornea with hospitality. The record patient, of which there is an available data, has been using it more than 35 years. The latest model we have been implementing since 1976, it has successfully established itself. Since that time, proven successful model has shed the light into the lives of thousands of patients. This is more than in Europe and maybe even more than in the whole world has been made. A burns department in Odessa even today remains the world's only specialized center for treatment of eye burns.
И возможность таким людям возвращать зрение полноценное.
And the possibility for such people to return the full vision, 100% vision. I think this is a huge breakthrough achievement, particularly to the efforts of Nadezhda Puchkovskaya. The area of eye clinic, people on the grass, their faces turned toward the sun. A picture of the 1950s of the previous century. But what is surprising? Surprising is the fact that these people were not holiday makers, but patients of professors Linnik and Shevelov. Certainly you can imagine how they were looked at, other physicians, as they believed that this is not normal and they are impudent scientists. It was only later on they became famous all around the world. How to get into the eye without cutting, without a scalpel? At that time this question was asked not only in Odessa, especially in the treatment of pathologies of the retina. If the cornea is the window to the world, the retina is a window into the brain. Light passes through the cornea, falls into the transparent lens, where the image size of a postage stamp is projected on the thin membrane in the backside of the eye. This is the retina itself. When compared with the photographic film in the camera, here are the same functions performed by retina in the eye. A perception of light. A healthy retina is tied to the choroid. Unfortunately, in a number of cases, holes or gaps, as we call them, may occur in the retina. Oddly enough, sunbathing helped with this diagnosis. A scar from burn blocked the gap, but these experiments were only part of the large-scale study on the effect of light on the human eye. Its result was the first in the world, the first in medicine application of laser. Here in the Filatov's Institute, Professor Vladimir Linnik performed the first laser coagulation of the patient with retinal detachment. And with the help of laser coagulation, it was possible finally to stop this retinal detachment. Meet Ksenia and the twins Nikolai and Ivan. Their main interest today is to explore the world. They are curiously looking at everything that met in their path. But only a few years ago they could forever lose this opportunity. These babies weigh less than a kilogram. In medicine, there is a special term for them, premature. They were so in a hurry to see the world, but it is precisely because of this haste they are at risk to stay blind for life. A child who is born prematurely has almost all immature systems of organs, including the vascular system of the retina. The growth of blood vessels just stops, and instead of them, on the retina flourishes fibrovascular tissue. It is dangerous by the fact that in a number of cases it can lead to a complete irreversible blindness. This is the diagnosis that was stated for our kids. Babies were born small, 1 kilogram and 250 grams and 1 kilogram and 290 grams. We have been diagnosed with aggressive retinopathy. It is almost total blindness. And the laser technique here is the only panacea, but in Ukraine, the homeland of medical laser, premature babies have been doomed for a long time. Everything is locked on organization. Why? Because a premature baby cannot be transported. Baby is placed in a cabin where he was born. But these children as well should see the sun. The Institute, on its own initiative, has developed and implemented a model of interaction with the regions. With mobile team and necessary equipment, we leave for the destination place and perform laser surgery on site in the conditions of Children's Regional Hospital. Within a few years, under such pattern, 2,500 children were examined, and every 10th child was sick, but all they got another chance to see the world. Children who will actually see and will not be disabled. Thank God we can see, looking at this world. I am very grateful to Sergei Vladimirovich that everything was made on time and I have a child who sees. But in the age of laser surgery, Filatov's team went even further and introduced the technology which intermarry eye with legendary T-34. We can preface the story with the words of Boris Patton: "We weld on the ground, weld under the water, weld in outer space. Why cannot we weld in biological tissues?" While in Odessa they gave back sight, in Kiev the new welding technologies were introduced. The all-welded tank T-34, all-welded bridge across the Dnieper River, welding of pipelines under the water, welding in outer space. It is only a short portfolio of the Patton's dynasty. But what good is from all this to surgeons? Have a look, a bloodless dissection. Join of large arteries and intestine in seconds. And most importantly, the absence of necrosis in the areas of current exposure. A seam which is obtained, it is in fact alive. We do not overburn the tissue very quickly regenerates. In large surgery, the technology was implemented with hurrah shouts. The number of surgeries is exceeded 20,000. However, the ophthalmologists have remained on the sideline. The tools that are used in large surgery, they are very big. It's one thing to remove a part of the liver and another thing to perform microsurgery inside the eye. Filatov's team tackled the adaptation. They have developed micro-tools, improved the current parameters. However, did welding have justified their hopes? Prior to the introduction of the electric welding, the cases at times were helpless. For example, the retinal detachment when laser is already powerless. If that gap was discovered too late and it has already led to patient's retinal detachment, then we have to perform surgical treatment. 2 years ago, Tamara Grigorina was diagnosed with it. According to classical method, the entire 2 surgeries has to be done on a blind woman. During the first time, the retina is laid in place. For its abutment, the eye is filled with silicone oil or gas. The patient remains without vision and freedom of movement for a month. In this case, it is needed to lie upside down for a month. They bought these live buoys in order for the patient to breathe. If you eat, then you have to bow your head, all the time with bowed head. But then another operation, now for the removal of oil from the eye. This 2-step procedure the entire world uses today, but not Filatov's team. They are simply have welded Tamar's retina. Due to the spatial parameters, welding allows us to achieve a dense fit in the region of the gap and avoid the subsequent tamponade with liquid or gas. Patients receive vision the next day right away. The only hurt was when the plaster was removed after. One day I have to lay, and on the next day I was raised and I already was able to see. But the main difficulties for the surgeon at all times remain the bleedings. Oddly enough, ophthalmologists are no exception. Pancreatic diabetes is the enemy of human vascular system. With this terrible disease today is suffering more than 2 million Ukrainians. In fact, they are always on the verge of blindness. The retina of these patients acquires with membranes, which is resulting in detachments. What is special about this surgery? It is in fact that during the removal of membranes from patients' ocular fundus, quite often bleeding are emerge. But Filatov's team has ensured once again the work of welding project is worth of spent energy. With the help of high-frequency welding, we achieve a complete stopping of blood flow in the choroid. And again the patient sees. But particularly significant the welding had become in treatment of the ocular tumors, when doctor is fighting not for the vision but for the life of the patient. The main reason of failures in tumor surgery is non-controlled bleeding from the newly formed vessels. Metastasis. The tumor cells enter the bloodstream and are spreading the organism, and naturally they can lead to lethal outcome.
Чтобы не было генерализации опухоли клеток по всему организму.
Welding, like no technology in the world, allows to completely eliminate the bloodstream. We block blood vessels first and then we remove the tumor. In front of you are the unique frames of the eye tumor removing with implementation of welding technology. We obtain specific results in specific patients' cases, per se in hopeless cases. For 3 years of the use of new technology, all operated patients, and it is up to 200 people, are alive today. In curing of cancer patients, in the first place, it is not a vision, you understand, it is the patient's life. In second place is the preservation of the eye, and only on the third place is vision, so I am emphasizing that we achieve vision too, quite often on a pair with the second and first paragraphs. We will no longer place stitches, we begin to weld the nerve tissues, we make the leap in a seamless surgery. This is just the beginning. In the nearest future, the available welding has to replace an unbearably expensive proton therapy. We have to deprive this tumor tissue of vital abilities in order to be able to remove the tumors but still maintain. In the language of physicians, it is called devitalization, and the first result has already been received. We had undertaken this idea and ophthalmology as well, and we have succeeded for the first time in the world. And we see great prospects. It is a passion of all my life. Year 1999, Kiev. In the middle of a hot summer, the parliament passed a law on the transplantation of organs and other anatomical materials of man. From now, the presumption of descent is fixed. If there is no written consent drawn up during the lifetime, it is prohibited to withdraw organs from disease. Donor material in Ukraine today is not possible to find. The surgeons whose skill has been sharpened to the perfection were cut from the source of the working material. Philatos techniques that conquer the whole world were sunk into the theory. The jewelers without diamonds. Well, the only way out is to master how to create these diamonds by ourselves. Hundreds and hundreds of corneas are needed for different purposes, for medical coverage, for keratoplastics. Our dream is, of course, to create a biological equivalent. As we have already found out, the main quality of the cornea is the transparency which is provided by the special structure of the tissue. It consists basically of collagen fibers, which are so distant from one another that waves of light bend around them and don't scatter. To recreate this carcass became the highest priority of scientists. The main building block is collagen. This module is the substrate and basis to where cells are implemented, cells that form the intermediate substance of the cornea and the cells that cover it, epithelium. Despite early successes, the scientists have realized the real results are away, but the delay is unacceptable. Hundreds of patients need not only vision but also medical coverage. This is when patient's cornea, usually under severe conditions, is covered by the donor's cornea, because in some situations we need to keep an eye as an organ, to keep its integrity. This is what Nikolai needed badly. A man received a chemical burn without leaving his house. Mole hit the eyes, alkali, and mole is a very strong alkali. The left eye cornea was all ulcerated, there was a threat to its thinning, and the eye could leak out. Exactly in such cases the medical coverage is performed. But were there a possibility to help Nikolai? While the synthetic analog is not found, Odessa dwellers decided to borrow from what has been created by nature, not for a man though, but for these lovely animals. Pig ocular fundus. When we look to ophthalmoscope, it is difficult to distinguish it from the human ocular fundus. At the Ternopil Institute of Eye Diseases, we have started to use a pig's cornea. But the idea of transplanting the cornea of animals is not new. A century ago, it was not successful. What's the secret? It is in a special recipe for conservation. However, with this method, not only preserved it, but also its antigenic properties are reduced. It becomes less alien to the human body. Just godsend for medical coverage. It is not rejected by eye, and after healing it is completely resolved. Exactly, pig cornea has been transplanted to the Nikolai, and it gave us the opportunity to keep the eyeball, to prevent all these unwanted serious consequences, and I think that we will certainly return back his vision. Today more than 30 people tried pig cornea. In all patients we have saved the organ of vision and prepared them for further treatment, and if we didn't have it, we would lose the eyes. Up to now there are no such surgeries in the world. However, pig cornea didn't give us optical effect. Scientists continue to search for a synthetic analog. Finally, there are first results. The corneal module has been developed that we have implanted in the cornea of rabbits, and as shown by clinical histological studies, it is well accepted by rabbits' cornea. It doesn't become cloudy and doesn't cause immunological rejection. Meet Arnold, one of the rabbits to whom a collagen module has been transplanted. He didn't become cloudy, and in my opinion, Arnold sees with him perfectly. Finally, the first surgeries on patients. Today we have already made layered corneal transplantation for 3 patients. And the results are not bad. So a new material has been found for medical coverage. This is certainly a breakthrough. But our friend Arnold not only saved his eyes, his vision has been returned. We still need to work a year or 2 more in order to move to the optical transplantation, so that we can replace, and the next day after operation a patient will be able to see well. Can we doubt that Filatov's team will gain another victory? Once one person in the port city has defied all the skeptics in the world. Today, hundreds of his followers didn't stop in front of difficulties. 200 scientists and physicians, among them 23 professors, doctors of medical sciences, and 64 candidates of science. Every day they cross a doorstep of the institute, they return vision and make new discoveries, and every day they flame with one desire. With desire to grow, to be the best, and to be worthy of such title, Filatov's team. Close your eyes. How long will you survive like this, in complete darkness? Vision is a priceless gift, but to realize this, alas, can only blind person. How one can really evaluate people's hard work who return vision and who live for the purpose that everyone could see the sun.